What's up, everybody? My name is Godzi, and I have Swiss rolls. Welcome back to Umineko When They Cry questions arc. Last episode, Eva and Hideyoshi died, and of course we need to send them off, because I forgot to do that last episode. Rest in peace, Eva. She was kinda weird, and reminded me of she reminds me very much of someone who I know in real life. But they're dead now, too, so, oops. Just kidding, that's a joke. And rest in peace, Hideyoshi. He's one of the better characters in this game. Wow, I gave, like, jokes. Some of the characters, I'm just like, Kraus, he didn't know how to read, but Hideyoshi, I'm just like, yeah, he died. That's really it. But whatever. This episode, I don't know if anyone else is gonna die, but I know it picks up after those two, so, ooh. Woo! Wow, this game's really getting heated, isn't it? Time for the Monokuma Theater! Oh, please, God, no. I don't even know who you are, but please, God, no. Suck it up, Battler! It's time for Monokuma Theater! Alright. I'm sorry if I'm kind of screaming and scratching my mic at that point. I would definitely turn down the levels if I knew it was too loud, but hey, if it's too loud, I'll be sure to turn down my mic from now on. Which might be something I should have done this whole time. I don't know. Whatever. Anyways, it's time to theorize. I was thinking about one in particular character quite a bit since last episode, and that character goes by the name of Genji what's-his-fuck. Oh boy. Thing is, Genji is the most suspicious character. The most suspicious. By a considerable margin. However, I do not think that he's the killer. I think that there are only two people who are alive who could be the killer. And if it's neither of them, then it would have to be someone who's dead. Thing is, I think Genji is an accomplice. I was thinking, perhaps, he was going on about how he was thinking he was safe and all that, and I think the reason for that is because he knows it's not Beatrice. He knows the true killer's identity. And he thinks that he's going to be spared. He's going to be one of the ones left alive at the end. As for who the killer is, I am not sure. However, of the people who are alive, there are only two people who could have slipped away to commit murder. And they are Kinzo and Kanon. If Genji is indeed a accomplice, then the scene with these two outside the door to Eva and Hideyoshi's room could easily be falsified. That easily could have just been in there to throw us off. It could have thrown us off entirely to make us think that they didn't kill any of these guys, well, specifically these two. But I think it's possible that Kanon killed everyone. Kanon has no reason to have not been able to kill everyone. Not to mention, he's the one who found the garden shed in the first place. And learned that all of these people were in it. Why are these three? Okay. That's just a weird graphical glitch, I guess. As for Kinzo, it's the obvious answer. No one's seen him. He could have done anything. So, now, as I continue to eat my Swiss rolls, we move on. At any rate, we'll lock this room and leave everything as it is until the police come. No objections, I take it? Nazi announced it as though she didn't care whether they agreed or not. George is gonna be upset. If anyone had a right to object, it would have been George. Yeah, go figure. But he looked as though he'd shed enough tears. George nodded slightly, still facing away from the others. Forgot to mention, the culprit doesn't have to be Kinzo or Kanon. It could be someone who's dead. And this is assuming Genji's an accomplice, of course. Genji himself could still do it. Except probably he didn't. And when he stood up, everyone else agreed too. Natsui still hadn't open that western envelope of the family head that she'd picked up. But now that they'd decided to leave this room, she decided to unseal it in the parlor where everyone could watch. As soon as they walked out into the hallway to head back to the parlor, some of them immediately felt something out of place, or maybe sensed something strange. Yeah. Stinks? What? Did you notice it too, Maria? Seriously, what's that smell? It's awful. When everyone sniffed the air, they did notice a horrible burnt smell drifting through the hallway. Oh, now I remember this. Okay. One that none of them had smelled until then. I will go quickly to check the kitchen. I'm sure I turned the flame off. After noticing a burnt smell, it was natural that Kumasawa, who had just been using the burner in the kitchen, suspected that her own slip-up had caused it. That would make sense, since she was cooking and then Cannon's just like, come quickly! What? What are we doing? Oh god, Eva and Hideyoshi, no! Kumasawa hastily dashed away. Cannon, go with Kumasawa. Oh, fucking Christ. Do not let her be alone. Yes. After nodding at Genji's order, Cannon followed after her. He wasn't running, but as he followed her, he tried to search for the cause of the smell in other directions as well. Stinks. It truly is a stench that makes the nose wrinkle. However, that doesn't mean we can just open a window for ventilation. Natsuki was reluctant to open the windows in a situation where self-defense was so important. Let us run the fan. I do not believe there will be any need to open the windows. George, is it okay if I talk to you? If it's about finding the culprit, then I have no problems. Yeah, that would make sense at this point. It seemed that George had managed to climb out of the abyss of sorrow. Has he now? You sure? All that filled his chest now was the quiet flame of hatred towards the culprit, who had stolen the lives of the one he loved and his beloved parents. Huh. Okay. Time to stretch. New theory. Culprits. Bing, 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 bing. These two betrayed. These two are the culprits. These two were accomplices. They lied about Shannon being dead because these two... Hideyoshi told George not to look at the body. But then that would mean he's not involved in Shannon's... This doesn't hold water at all. Never mind. Forget I said that. The chain for this room was set. From what I could tell by looking at it, I'm positive that it couldn't be opened from the outside. In other words, this was a perfect closed room. That does seem to be the case. Unless they let the killer in. Like, what if those two actually were accomplices? I'm gonna be using an accomplice theory a lot now, aren't I? If those two were accomplices and did know the identity of the killer, which I don't see why Hideyoshi or Eva would be accomplices, but just in case they are, they could have easily not even had the chain set on their door and the killer barged in to kill them anyways. Or they had the chain set and would only open it for the killer to discuss what's going on and then they betrayed them. I don't know. That does seem to be the case. In the case of the Rose Garden storehouse, they might have sneaked the shutter's key out of the servant room. Or maybe they had a duplicate key. I can imagine many ways they could have done it. But this chain is different. Among generally used locking techniques, a chain is the simplest one to create a closed room with. They could have removed it with a screwdriver from the outside, couldn't they? And then when they left the room, they just screwed it back into place, shut and locked the door. Only a chain will block everyone coming from the outside as long as it isn't physically broken. So does this mean the culprit couldn't have gone in or out through the door? That's interesting. Just a few hours ago, I seem to remember everyone making a fuss over how to enter a room without using the door. Oh yeah. There could be a secret door. Plus it's the first floor, right? Window? Back then, we were all losing our cool, wondering how grandfather had disappeared from his room. The receipt Aunt Eva stuck in the door on a whim proved that the door had remained sealed. And since Aunt Natsuhi was the only person to enter and exit during that time, she was under suspicion. Which probably doesn't help now that Eva's dead. Great. Aunt Eva proposed a theory about how Aunt Natsuhi might have thrown grandfather out the window, and left the door herself. But this door is much simpler. It was sealed from the inside by the door chain. The window had also been locked from the inside, and the bodies had been inside the room. This time it really had been, without exaggeration, a true closed room. That's right. If you include grandfather's disappearance, 3 cases have occurred, and all 3 times the door has been the point of interest. Door? The first was the shutter. There was a key in the servant room, and if we assume someone knew about that, this can't really be called a closed room. Next was the door sealed by the receipt. However, Aunt Natsuhi entered that room, so if grandfather had left through the window or been thrown out, she would have been able to lock the window before escaping. Or, like my theory, grandfather could have hidden until the receipt was gone and left the room later. Basically, this door can be defeated with a handful of desperate tricks. In that sense, you really can't call this one a closed room either. But this is definitely different. And now we have the door sealed with the door chain. Finally, we have to give up. The window, the door, everything had been locked. It was a perfect closed room. The first hadn't been a closed room because everyone could be suspected. The second hadn't been a closed room because Aunt Natsuhi could be suspected. But this time, no one can be suspected. This was a perfect closed room because the door chain formed a seal that blocked everyone equally well. Hold on, though. Is there a way that the two could have killed each other? I mean, I doubt it happened after seeing what they were talking about last time, going like, let's go to the Maldives when we're out of here. I want to go. But I don't think there's a way they could have killed each other. Because then there would have been a blood trail between the bathroom and the bed. Because whether Hideyoshi stabbed Eva while she was in the bed and then got stabbed by her at the same time and walked over to the bathroom, he would have had to get naked and all that. Yeah, that didn't happen. But then if Eva killed Hideyoshi and he also stabbed her, unless one of them stabbed themselves, that wouldn't make sense. Although that might be something that might come up. I don't know. In that case, did the culprit carry out the crime without entering the room? Doubt it. With some method from outside the room. Good point. Even though the chain makes it impossible to open it wide enough for a person to fit through, you can open it a small crack. Did the culprit knock on the door to make them peer out before attacking them? No, there's no blood trail. Wait, am I missing something? Yeah, you are. If Aunt Eva's body had been lying right next to the door, then it might have been possible. But she was on the bed at the back of the room, and Uncle Hideyoshi was even in the bathroom. Looking from the crack in the door, you couldn't even see them, and you couldn't reach them with your hands either. Damn it, it's all useless! I don't have a clue! Something was tugging softly at my sleeve. It was Maria. Of course it was. Ah, fucking Christ. Yep, there it is, the fucking smug smile. And I'm done with my Swiss rolls. How about I just do a little stand up and put it in the garbage? Look at that. Do not litter, kids. Throw away your garbage. Ew. Satisfied? What do you mean satisfied? Also, I feel like, because later characters, I remembered one character who would probably be given the Natsuki voice. I might want to make Maria's voice a little higher pitched, because I'm not making that other character's higher pitched, so enjoy ridiculously high pitched Maria, okay? What do you mean satisfied?
Battler, since you didn't want to suspect any of your relatives, you made a wish, saying you wanted the culprit to be Beatrice, right? Well, Beatrice granted that wish. Wish. Just as you asked. She did something that was completely impossible for a human to make you believe in the witch. And now you're complaining? How selfish. Ouch!
Yeah, that'll happen. I tapped Maria, who was laughing unpleasantly, on the head with my fist. Sure, thanks for granting that wish. That just now was to thank you, and also to teach you to stop laughing when it's inappropriate. More importantly, tell me, there was another mysterious scribble on the door to Aunt Eva and Uncle Hideyoshi's room. Was that another magic circle? It was a square this time.
That one had a really memorable and characteristic design, so I'd hoped you'd at least know what it was. Ouch!
I don't know, which is why I'm letting you take the credit. Quit whining and explain.
You sure are violent, Battler. I won't tell you if you're too mean, get it? Ouch! I'll say it. Stop hitting me. That's the first magic circle of the moon.
What does it mean? What is this magic circle's effect? What does the Hebrew writing mean? It looks kind of like a door. Maybe it seals doors? I have no clue.
The words are from the Old Testament, Psalms 107, verse 16. For he has broken gates of brass and cuts through bars of iron. This magic circle has two effects. First, it can open a door regardless of which method has been used to lock it.
That sure is convenient. So you're saying they're trying to make it look like they're a witch because this closed room has a door that can't be opened without relying on magic. And the other effect?
When you're blocked by unopenable doors in all directions, it opens a door. By using it in a difficult situation, it gives you a solution you hadn't even thought of until then. Generally speaking, you receive the powers of observation and discernment, inspiration and intuition. Beatrice is trying to provoke you, since there's no way lowly humans like Battler could figure out how this door was opened. Ouch!
Okay, good work, so shut up. I like that. Sounds great. I'll accept this challenge from the witch. Maria, things like witches and demons don't exist in this world. Someone killed father and mother. I don't know whether that was someone I know or not, but either way, it was definitely a human. That's true, yes.
Yeah, but how? How'd they reach those two through the crack in that door?
It couldn't have been more than 10 centimeters wide. At any rate, I can hardly stand this stench. What in the world could it be? And just then we heard screaming. Kanon and Kumasawa, who had gone on ahead, realized the smell wasn't coming from the kitchen even before they arrived there. That was because they noticed an even thicker wave of stench rising up from the stairs leading to the basement, which they passed on their way to the kitchen. Interesting. The boiler room. I wonder if there's something wrong with the boiler again. Those stairs led to the underground boiler room. The mansion's boiler was old and in poor condition. Both of them had witnessed problems with the boiler on several occasions, but they had never smelled the boiler belching out a stench like this before. Slam. Uh-oh. What was that sound? The thing they heard from the basement was definitely the sound of a door closing. Kumasawa had phrased it as a question, but she already knew it couldn't be anything else. Oh, it was Kumasawa. What was that sound? Kumasawa was so surprised at that sound that her knees gave way yet again and she cowered, of course. After all, at that very moment, no one could have been in the boiler room. Just a few seconds ago, everyone had been crowded together around Eva and Hideyoshi's room. So who caused the sound of a door closing just now? Kanon! After taking a second to sort out the situation, Kanon ran down towards the basement. Since they'd heard the sound of a door closing just now, and there was no sign of anyone coming up the stairs, the person who'd closed the door had to be inside the boiler room now. If the boiler room had been a dead end, Kanon wouldn't have rushed in so hastily. But Kanon was a servant, so he knew. There were two entrances to the boiler room, one that opened to the mansion and one that opened to the courtyard. Oh. If he didn't chase them now, they might slip away. Kumasawa reached the same conclusion long after Kanon did, but she couldn't let him go alone. If the thing in the boiler room was the culprit, an opponent who had easily killed 6 adults in the first murder, then no matter how Kanon confronted them, he wouldn't be a match. But I remember from the show, Kanon's relatively strong. Of course, with this argument, even if Kumasawa joined him, it wouldn't change anything. At any rate, after a delay, Kumasawa decided that she mustn't let Kanon go alone, and she rushed down the stairs. At that time, Cannon was already in the boiler room. Okay? The boiler room's characteristic damp heat tormented him. It had always been an unpleasantly smelly and hot place. That's a boiler room for you. And on top of that, the room was full of that horrible stench, which made Cannon feel like he was going to be sick. There was no doubt that this room was the source. In that case, Cannon should have been searching for where the smell was coming from. However, Cannon kept gazing straight forward as he grabbed a hatchet from a tool shelf just off to the side of the door. Okay. He hadn't stretched out his hand because he'd wanted a hatchet. He had wanted to grab a weapon. Any weapon. Why? Are they there? Cannon gazed into the darkness where the naked light bulb couldn't pierce. Then he answered. In the roulette, you bet on a number of the colors, red or black, vying for a payoff. However, low-risk bets like black and red only offer a similarly low payoff. The words coming from Cannon's mouth were swallowed up by the darkness. The darkness suddenly started to swirl, glittering. Uh-oh. Yep, that'll happen. The golden butterflies. Oh boy. More golden butterflies, okay. It was such a fantastical scene. Golden sparkling butterflies that hid in the shadows all over the boiler room. Flapped their wings, twinkling beautifully, and gathered in the darkness, disappearing. Cannon continued speaking, directing his words at the darkness as it swallowed the butterflies up. Okay, this sound is a little annoying now. But as the butterflies gathered in the darkness, they probably, no, they would certainly laugh. But Cannon continued to speak without faltering in the slightest. However, if you bet on something with a lower probability, your payoff increases proportional to the risk. The masters called succeeding despite an astronomical risk a miracle, and called the astronomical payoff gained as a result magic. I have no interest in what kind of magic you and the master were seeking when you spun that roulette, but you forgot something. You forgot that in roulette, there's a pocket that's neither black nor red. What? Roulette has a special pocket called 0, which means that the house takes everything in certain variants of the game. This means that all of the coins bet on the table will be swept up, just as though everyone has forfeit. I set my heart on just one thing. I decided that if Shannon were to be killed and I was left alive, I'd sacrifice this life of mine and bring this roulette of yours to ruin. Oh boy. This isn't one of the master's rules, and it certainly isn't one of yours. I made this rule myself. I'm not furniture anymore. I'm the 0 on your roulette. Oh boy. Cannon's face twisted with humiliation. It was clear that his defiance against his own weaknesses was being ridiculed somehow. Cannon's brow creased even further, and a fierce expression that he'd never shown to anyone appeared on his face. The hand grasping the hatchet was shaking. His sweat became drops which slid downward. It was clear that the emotion causing Cannon's hand to shake wasn't just anger. However, Cannon suppressed that emotion. I won't let your words lead me astray again. This is where the demon's roulette ends. Wait another 1,000 years in hell for your next summoner, Beatrice! When Cannon raised the hatchet and tried to dive into the darkness definitely sneered. It sneered at that courage as if it were vulgar, lazy, futile, and meaningless. You know what? I'm gonna grab something. I have some cardboard tubes here for screaming. Oh. This should help with my voices. I have 2 cardboard tubes, as you can hear. That was probably really loud, but I can scream into them as loud as I want to! Cannon, his hatchet still held aloft, couldn't take another step after that. With a clang, the hatchet that he'd been grasping fell and rolled on the floor. I don't remember this. He doesn't die here, right? And following that, with a pair of thuds, Cannon's knees hit left, then right. That hand, which looked like it was trying to catch the sky now that the hatchet had been dropped, gradually lowered, landing on his chest. Then the other hand did the same. Yeah, he died. Okay. I don't remember that. Right there was a handle with a demonic design engraved in it. As Cannon looked down at his chest, the same type of weapon that had been stabbed into Eva and Hideyoshi's foreheads was... Cannon was curled up in anguish, fresh blood dribbling from the corner of his mouth. It was makeup too extreme for Kanon's white skin. Huh. What a moron. Around the scene, the glittering gold butterflies danced through the darkness, mesmerizing. It was a beautiful, beautiful dance. A funeral march of tribute, ridicule, and contempt for a single boy's self-sacrifice. Kanon had already been prepared for his own death, but although he could do nothing but accept the death he had received, he attempted one last measure of resistance. He grasped the handle of the weapon sticking into his chest with both hands, and gritting his teeth with an acute, unearthly pain, he pulled it out. Did he survive? I don't remember. For only a moment, a bright red spray gushed out. It made an unpleasant bloop sound. Wow, that's not how you refer to blood, okay? It probably resembled the sound of Kanon's soul as it was sucked into the swamp of the dead. Uh-oh.
Kanon? Eee! Someone! Eee!
Kumasawa screamed at the incomprehensible sight in front of her. Kanon was lying in a pool of blood. Kumasawa's heart was a complete mess. Ah, what a horrible fate. He wouldn't have been killed if I had been with him. Ah, what incredible luck! If I had been with him, I might have been killed too. What the fuck? As she screamed, her expression was filled with complete confusion, and all of the muscles of her face were pulled up, almost as though she was smiling while crying. But no one could have made fun of an expression like this. What is it, Kumasawa? Answer me, Kumasawa! Oh, that was Natsuhi. The first one to dash in was Natsuhi, holding the rifle. Batware and Genji dashed in after her. Normally, they probably would have started discussing the origin of that violent stench filling the boiler room. But after they saw Kanon, who was lying on the ground as if he were drowning in an ocean of his own blood, the stench wasn't important anymore. Kanon, answer me! Genji, bring Dr. Nanjo here. Oh, that was Natsuhi again. Christ, you can at least tell me. Natsuhi realized that even though Kanon was on the verge of death, he was still conscious. So she sent Genji to the doctor. Natsuhi, holding the rifle aloft, faced the darkness in the center of the boiler room and shouted, "Who is hiding over there? Come out quietly! If you don't come out from there, I'll shoot without mercy! We need light! Aunt Natsuhi, let's light them up!" Batware, thinking quickly, took a large flashlight from the tool shelf alongside the door and used its light to cut through the darkness Natsuhi was glaring into. But the light only shone on mechanical-looking piping in a door. The door had been left open with a small crack, and it was obvious that someone had left through there in a hurry. Aunt Natsuhi, where does that door go? Genji, where does that door lead to? The courtyard. Like how I'd let you get away! You damn... Hold on. Bastard! Batware let out a war cry as he slammed into the door. I'm just gonna take one of the tubes. I have two of them, but I only really need one at a time. Cool air from outside suddenly rushed in. There were some thin, rough stairs leading up. Batware ran up them, shouting, "Wait, Battler! It's dangerous to be on your own right now!" Natsuhi was also rushing up the stairs, chasing after Batware. Uh-oh. Oh, it's still raining, duh. They were in the courtyard. The courtyard of the mansion had been built strictly for lighting purposes, so it wasn't a very elegant place. Because it was surrounded on all sides, the air was calm and completely undisturbed, even though they could hear the sound of strong winds. There was only the gentle, sorrowful rain. As he ran through the cold and scattered raindrops, dashing up the stairs into the courtyard, Batware looked in every direction. Of course, the odds of him finding a suspicious silhouette just standing around nonchalantly were pretty much zero. Batware spun, looking all around. He turned again and again. He kept spinning until he almost lost his sense of direction. He prayed that he would see the culprit somewhere in the scenery, but there was no chance. All he saw as he spun was more and more of the mansion's heartless walls and windows. Furthermore, there were two entrances into the mansion from the courtyard, and neither of them were locked. Because the courtyard couldn't be entered from outside the mansion, the doors had been built without locks. Okay. He didn't know which one they had left through. He had to give up. Batware pounded the wall with his fist, swearing, "Battler, you mustn't run ahead by yourself." Battler? Batware pressed his forehead against the wall, which he scratched at with his fingernails as he cried. Damn it! Damn it! Damn it! Aunt Eva and Uncle Hideyoshi, And now Cannon! You killed a full 6 people! And that wasn't enough, so you had to kill 3 more! Are you kidding me? Are you fucking kidding me?! Aunt Eva and Uncle Hideyoshi were always kind and fun. I just met Cannon yesterday, but I'm sure I'd have gotten along fine with him. Why did you kill them? Why? Why? You know, when people die, they don't come back to life again, right? People die when they're killed. They aren't gonna quickly sprout up again like bamboo shoots. Why'd you kill them? Why? Why? Ah! I like doing that. The cardboard tube helps a lot. Battler was a boy who could understand the feelings of pain and regret in a person's heart. So he cried. With all his strength. Natsuhi, who had always thought of Battler as a frank person, was a little surprised to find he had this delicate side. And at the same time, she understood how easily hurt the heart of a young person could be. So she held him. It's alright. I will definitely protect you, George, Maria, and Jessica. As a mother, and as the representative of the Ushiromiyas family. Yeah! Ah! Battler, after sobbing into Natsuhi's chest for a while, wiped his tears with a bitter smile. That rhymed! As though he had been like that the whole time and tried to appear as though he'd cried more than enough already. Anyway, let's go back down for now. Protecting ourselves is a higher priority than finding the culprit. Tomorrow, the boat will arrive. After that happens, the police will come, and everything should be brought to light. There's no way the culprit can escape this island, no matter how much they struggle. That's right, when the police come. When the seagulls cry, this crime will be solved. But for some reason, Battler felt a slight sense of uneasiness, as if the seagulls would never cry again. That couldn't be true. When the typhoon passes, surely the lively seagulls will return to the harbor again. You sure? I returned to the boiler room along with Aunt Natsuhi and told everyone weakly that we hadn't found anything. We heard that Dr. Nanjo and George had carried Cannon to the servant room. The servant room had a first aid kit and a sink, and could apparently function as a nurse's office. Kumasawa and Jessica had accompanied them. Stains from Cannon's blood remained on the floor. Judging by the large amount of blood lost and the ruthless shape of the weapon that had fallen carelessly to the ground, I figured that Dr. Nanjo's treatment would probably end in vain. That weapon was doubtlessly the same type that had been stuck in Aunt Eva and Uncle Hideyoshi's foreheads. But wait, isn't the demonic design on the handle a little different? There seemed to be some small differences in that part. Okay. Still, as far as their overall shape was concerned, the weapons were all of the same shape, same type. Though it had seemed brutal, we'd left the weapon stuck into Aunt Eva and Uncle Hideyoshi to preserve the crime scene. So this was the first time we were able to have a perfect view of the entire weapon. And as we had expected, the weapon was not bladed like a knife, but shaped like an ice pick, or rather, a thin stake. And it had a spiral-shaped pattern, sort of like a drill. It looked like something that might be driven into the hearts of human sacrifices in some demonic ritual. Including the handle, it was 25 centimeters long. Christ. Half of that was the stake-shaped part, which was stained with deep red blood. The length of the bloodstained part made it clear just how deeply it must have been penetrated into Cannon's chest. But Aunt Natsuhi and the rest didn't even look at the weapon, and instead stood in front of the incinerator where the horrible stench was emanating from. They must have dragged it out. Dragged out that thing which had been burning in the surface. Furnace, rather. It was still smoldering and kept sending out dense waves of that awfully unpleasant smell. Genji and Maria stared down at it. Aunt Natsuhi probably couldn't stand to look directly at it. She kept shaking her head, her back to it. Ew. I thought nothing could have surprised me after everything that's happened, but this is... Ugh. I stood there for a while, moaning, with a rising urge to vomit. The true source of that unearthly stench was a scorched corpse that had been cooking inside the incinerator. Yeah, fucking Christ. We got into the boiler room like 24 minutes ago, and now we're finally realizing, oh, dead body. The clothes, the surface of the body, and the hair were all hideously burned. That grotesque corpse was in a state where not the face, nor the age, nor even the gender could be guessed at. But when I thought about it calmly, I realized that a corpse appearing at this time could only be one person. It was grandfather, who had disappeared that morning and whose whereabouts had been unknown. I believe it is most likely the master. I agree that he would pass away in such a state. It's heart-rending. Heart-rending? I don't know. Did it mean to say heart-wrenching? Probably. But is there any proof that this corpse really is grandfather? It's burnt so black you can't even tell what sex it is. Butler, look at the feet. Aunt Nazi, with her handkerchief over her mouth and her eyes averted, pointed and told me to look at the burnt corpse's feet. Question mark? Notice how there are 6 toes on each foot. What? Huh? Ah, you're right. Just as Genji had said, there were 6 toes on each foot. Each individual toe had looked so normal in its line that I hadn't noticed. The master was born with 6 toes on both of his feet. Oh, okay, cool. Consequently, the master was entrusted with the revival of the Ushiromiyas family. I've heard that since long ago, cases of polydactyly were common in the Ushiromiyas family. It's probably hereditary. Polydactyly literally means many fingers. Because of a little mistake by God when the person is born, one of their toes or fingers splits into 2 and the total number increases. But a big deal isn't usually made of polydactyly in the world at large. That's because it isn't a disease, just something people are born with. So while they are still babies, at about the time they turn 1 year old, they can be taken to the hospital and given surgery to make them normal. Really? I did not know that. Even a child with polydactyly can be treated before they become aware. So they might not even remember it themselves. By the way, it seems that there's a possibility for this to occur in 1 out of every 2,000 babies. So even though it's not usually seen, it isn't that rare at all. Maybe that's why there's such a big gap between my big toe and my second toe. On both of my feet. Speaking of which, I think Uncle Hideyoshi mentioned something to me long ago. Something about how even Toyotomi Hideyoshi... Okay, they're actually referencing that parallel. The man who unified Japan at the end of the Sengoku period had 6 fingers on one hand. According to Aunt Natsuhi, among the many Ushiromiyas family heads, the ones most praised for their wisdom all had polydactyly. Because of that, when grandfather was born, his relatives were all excited at the thought that he might become another wise leader. And when the leading relatives all died in the Great Kanto earthquake, it was apparently argued that grandfather should be the one to restore the family because of the auspicious sign of his birth. If grandfather hadn't disliked his position as the head so much, his 6th toe probably would have been pretty lucky for him. Come to think of it, I've heard about some country where it's believed people with polydactyly should be treated as gods and revered. Okay. This is besides the point, but it's fairly common in mystery novels for a corpse to be burned to hide its identity. But I guess that in grandfather's case, just toasting him wouldn't be enough. And grandfather's body was not simply burnt. It was just like Aunt Eva and Uncle Hideyoshi, and the thing that had been stabbed into Cannon's chest. One of those demon's ice picks was struck into his forehead. Oh yeah, the head's ring is not on his finger. So the letter last night was telling the truth. Father would probably be horribly disappointed. Natsuki let her head droop and closed her eyes tightly. Well, who's getting the inheritance? Natsuki, perhaps? I'd say the cousins probably should. Well, at least parts of it, and then Natsuki becomes the new head. That would make most sense, after all. This room had also become a vital crime scene for us to hand over to the police. It was decided that we would leave grandfather's corpse here and lock the room, sealing it. It isn't clear when grandfather's corpse started burning in the incinerator, since according to Genji, the strength of the flames hadn't been that strong, so the body must have started burning a long time ago. So that stench could slowly creep out of the furnace and fill the room bit by bit, eventually pouring out and climbing up the staircase. Putting aside whether he was rare or well done, grandfather had been brought out, killed, and burned, even though he had started out locked away in the closed room created by his auto-lock. There's probably no doubting this. However, according to Genji, the boiler room is usually locked. Oh. The possibility that someone outside our group had snuck in and committed the crime was overwhelmingly high. And there was also a good chance that this person was walking around with something like a master key. After all, the doors and windows throughout the mansion had been checked. But despite that, the culprit was able to strut around the mansion freely. Does this crime confirm that a 19th person exists? Or one of the 18, but they faked their death? Cough Cough Goda. Also could be Cough Cough Shannon, but I don't know for sure. Probably not Cough Cough Eva or Cough Cough Hideyoshi. There's still that contradiction, since they're trying to tout their existence without ever showing themselves once. Along with Kyrie's chessboard theory, I've been using this contradiction to deny the existence of a 19th person. By spinning the chessboard around once more, the very fact that this crime makes it perfectly obvious that a 19th person exists, means that the existence of the 19th person is even less plausible. As long as that 19th person doesn't show themselves in front of us. If the culprit could get grandfather out through the door sealed by the receipt, if they could kill Aunt Eva and Uncle Hideyoshi from the other side of a door sealed by a chain, then they could possibly go so far as to create a fictional 19th person through strange tricks and devices. If he still wants to believe that the culprit is among the 18, then the list of suspects has grown very short. The four of us kids, Aunt Natsuhi, Genji, Kumasawa, and Dr. Nanjo. One of these people has to be the culprit. Wait, we can't be sure of that. Just a second ago, we started doubting whether the corpse here was actually grandfather's, right? Maybe we can think of the other bodies in the same way. Oh. For example, the first 6 all had their faces horribly smashed. Yeah, which is why I have the theory. Wait, now it's starting to actually hold water and I'm terrified. Also, ah shit, Christ. Burned in the incinerator with a weapon resembling an ice pick sticking out of his forehead. The old sorcerer's wish vanished before it could be granted. He always knew that this was one possible result of his risky gamble. But the thing is, I'm scared that the Goda theory's holding water. Because the thing is, here's my theory as to how it could be Goda. Like, yes, for the most part, I'm kind of just goofing around saying, like, blah, blah, blah. Could be Genji. These 4 did it. These 3 did it. Canon and Genji. Canon did it. Or Genji and Kinzo did it. Kinzo's dead. But the thing is, it could be actually either Kinzo or Goda with this theory. Thing is, that would actually, no. It would have to be Goda. So, the theory, I've talked about it, but now I'm gonna go as in detail as I can. The body that we found in the storehouse was not Goda, but Kinzo. Goda dressed up Kinzo's body as Goda. Goda hid as Kinzo. He dressed up as Kinzo as best he could to try and fool Natsuhi and Eva. And then he left back to the storehouse to grab Kinzo's body, put it in the incinerator shortly after we actually left it. And while that was all happening, these 2 could have been suspects, part of it, and he just barged into the room and got to them. I don't know. Basically, the theory is the body that was in the storehouse was Kinzo's corpse, and the one in the incinerator is also Kinzo's corpse. That's my theory. Could be awfully wrong, but it's a theory that stands mostly as a joke, but it's holding water and I'm scared. Some of the bodies had kept enough of their faces for us to confirm who they were, but that old bastard, for example, who had lost his entire face, as though the whole thing had been neatly peeled off. We only figured out which body was which by their clothes and surroundings. Did the culprit prepare a fake body beforehand and alter it to make it look like they died, even though they were actually hiding somewhere after committing the crime? It may sound ridiculous, but it wouldn't be an impossible trick to pull off. It's too early to give in to this 19th person. No, this witch! Well, damn. Now Kinzo's dead. Maria, you mustn't stare so fixedly anymore. Come on, Battler 2. I'm worried about Cannon's condition, and we mustn't remain in a place like this any longer than necessary. Let us return. Maria didn't go out with everyone else, but remained in the boiler room. The thing she was staring at so fixedly at probably wasn't grandfather's body, but the demon's ice pick sticking out of his forehead. It was probably the sort of item that an enthusiast couldn't bear to ignore. I tapped her on the head. Hey Maria, what's Beatrice after? Is it all of our lives? Oh boy.
Beatrice will revive very soon. At that time, none shall be left alive.
How can you laugh at something like that? Do you think you're the only one who's safe? Why don't you feel like you're in danger? Why aren't you scared?
Beatrice made a promise. She said she's gonna take me to the Golden Land. It's a wonderful place where you have no obligations. Everyone's always together, and everyone is always nice to everyone else. I'm looking forward to it. That time will come very soon now.
Yeah, bullshit. Shatter. Uh-oh. Just what kind of person is Maria? I only know what Maria was like 6 years ago, when she was 3. She was once pure and obedient, a good kid. This new Maria 6 years later and the Maria I knew didn't seem to fit together. Just who is she? This witch who calls herself Maria. To Maria, who obstinately believes in the witch, this series of unsolvable crimes is proof that the witch actually exists. Every time something occurs that would be difficult for a human, it becomes a little harder for the rest of us to not believe in Beatrice. It must be an intense pleasure for Maria to see her relatives, who once firmly denied the witch's existence, start acknowledging that witch's existence one by one. Is that why she's in high spirits? Maria, let me ask this one more time. You'll probably answer the same anyway, but I'll just ask once more.
Eh?
Yesterday you were giving a letter in the rose garden. Who gave it to you?
Like I said, Beatrice. Battler still doesn't believe.
Maria only repeated what she had already said. Maria met with the 19th person, the witch. Was that really a 19th person? Or did one of the 18 just get her to say that? All that's certain is that Maria has been with the rest of us constantly, has always had an alibi, and hasn't done anything suspicious. She's simply overjoyed at being made Beatrice's messenger, and certainly isn't the 19th person. Supposedly. No, Maria hasn't... No, it's not Maria. That's right. I wonder what's written in the letter we picked up in Aunt Eva and Uncle Hideyoshi's room. Aunt Natsuhi should still have it with her. Shatter. Shatter. Haha! Perfect timing. It only took 2... Why is the clock so big? Does it mean we're nearing the end? It's 8 o'clock. Christ. I put my hand in the cardboard tube and now it's not stuck. Okay. 2 episodes in a row someone died. Oh. In the end, Cannon did not regain consciousness. Does that mean he's dead too? Yeah, he is. Found in the boiler room with a weapon resembling an ice pick sticking out of his chest. How presumptuous of lowly furniture like that. Okay. Then I have no clue who it was. The only theory that still holds water is Goda, or maybe that stupid Shannon. These two are... That doesn't make sense, though. Just something about it doesn't make sense. My sincere apologies. Without proper facilities, there was nothing I could do about such a serious wound. No, that's perfectly understandable. Thank you so much for giving it your very best. Dr. Nanjo's shirt had been sprayed by a violent spurt of blood, so it was easy to imagine the devotion with which he had tried to save Cannon's life up until the last second. Jessica was crouched in the corridor, crying softly. She had probably been taking care of Cannon until the moment of his death. George tried to approach her with words of comfort, but when Jessica pushed him away, he stopped trying to force her to talk and left her alone.
If only I hadn't let Cannon go alone. Oh. If only I'd had my husband give him a sword and said, "It's dangerous to go alone. Take this."
Do not let that bother you. If you had been with him, you would probably have been attacked as well. He foolishly rushed on ahead and paid for his mistake.
How can you say it like that? Cannon spotted the culprit and bravely stood up to them. If only Kumasawa had gone with him, the culprit might have hesitated and chosen to run away.
Emotion-filled words that I never thought I'd hear coming from Jessica's mouth tumbled out. Kumasawa, looking truly sorry, could do nothing but hang her head. Jessica, you shouldn't talk to her now. It's the same for me and probably you as well, right, Battler? We don't know what's going on, and it feels like our hearts are going to split open. Well, Jessica still has a parent, at least, I guess. There were tears in George's eyes again. Seeing Jessica break down crying probably brought back the pain of losing his parents. I'd done my crying all at once, so I didn't feel like crying anymore. You've cried a couple times, though. However, I understood how great the pain in their hearts was.
It's okay, Jessica.
Oh my fucking god, she's super happy.
You'll be able to meet Cannon again soon. Stop it! I don't need you trying to console me like that. Beatrice will resurrect the dead and even love that had been lost. She'll definitely be able to meet him soon. Then everyone will be able to live in peace. So the one who killed Cannon is this Beatrice who supposedly gave you that letter yesterday? Where is she? Where's she hiding? I'll find her and tear her apart. Tell me. You know who the culprit really is, don't you? Naga! What do you know and what are you hiding? Tell me, damn it!
Milady, please stop.
Beatrice exists! Oh! Damn it, let go of me, Genji! Maria knows who the culprit is! She's hiding her identity even though she knows! She must be telling them what we're doing, guiding them as they kill us!
Jessica, be silent. Jessica grabbed at Maria. Genji tried to stop her, but Jessica could not be calmed. The next thing I heard was the sound of Aunt Nazi slapping Jessica's face.
What? Pew!
I'm making light of what's supposed to be like a super, like, upsetting moment, I'm sure, except Maria's already been attacked, so it's not that bad. By Rosa, too, who's dead, so... After that, only Jessica's sorrowful, sobbing voice resounded through the hall. Maria, I know there's no way you're the culprit. You've been with us since the beginning, and there was no time for you to communicate with any culprit. So I want you to tell me something. This Beatrice, who handed you the letter yesterday, who was she? Although those words seemed kind, they clearly showed that George still had some remaining doubts about Maria. He didn't actually grab at her. However, he felt exactly the same way Jessica did. George, I already asked her the same thing a second ago. Her answer was the same as before. I want to hear it from Maria's mouth. Who is Beatrice?
Even if I told you, you wouldn't believe anyway.
What do you mean by that? Could it be the culprit someone we know well, and you're keeping silent because you're covering for them for some reason? Who gave you that letter?
I got it from Beatrice. I'll say it no matter how many times you ask. I got the letter from Beatrice. George, do you refuse to believe in Beatrice because she's not an opponent you can hit? You want to turn your feelings of helplessness into violence and beat someone up. She won't be satisfied unless your opponent is a human you can hit. So even if I tell you the truth, you won't accept it. So it's pointless for me to tell you. You won't believe. But I'll keep on saying it, because it's true. Beatrice exists. The door to the Golden Land will soon be opened. I'll go there. Beatrice promised. In that world, Mama is nice. Papa is with us and is also nice. I want to go there right away. Everyone is afraid of Beatrice, but that's only natural. So calm yourselves. Beatrice said so herself. By the time the typhoon has passed, I'll have ended everything, she said. Ouch.
Maria, I don't mind you being talkative, but let's leave it at that for now. I'll bet this is all a pretty happy situation for you since you're always going on about how witches exist, but keep that to yourself for now. Don't try to force that on other people.
I know I've been creeped out by this girl for a while now, but there really is something wrong with her. Don't you think so too, Battler? Genji? Kumasawa? What about you, Mom? Maria knows who the culprit is and she's hiding it. Okay, maybe she hasn't done anything directly, but she's definitely working with the criminal. That's right, she's a spy. We can't let her stay with us any longer.
Maria, you must realize there are times when indiscreet discussion is best avoided. If you keep adding oil to the fire, even I will get very angry. Aunt Nazi glared at Maria with frightening eyes. Maria was used to Aunt Rosa's loud style of scolding, but she apparently hadn't built up a resistance to Aunt Nazi's quiet sort of scolding, which is better in every fucking sense. Like, if you're a parent and your idea of disappointing your kids is, "You fucking idiot! I swear to God, you're gonna get killed or something if you keep doing shit like that!" If that's your idea of scolding, then call CPS on yourself, please, because you're awful. But if your idea of scolding is something like, "Hey, please just stop doing that, or else I'm gonna, take away your shit," then keep doing what you're doing, because that's actually a good thing. She shrugged and kept her mouth shut. A desolate feeling filled the room. It felt as though things would just get more complicated if anyone spoke. How many people have already died? 6 people in Dad's group. After that, both Aunt Eva and Uncle Hideyoshi, Cannon, Grandfather. There were a whole 18 people on this island, supposedly, and 10 of those people have been killed. That's more than half of us. And right now, there's absolutely no proof that the remaining 8 people will be safe. But will they? At any rate, this is no time to quarrel. Now that we are certain the culprit can enter and leave the mansion at will and strike out of nowhere, We must give our undivided attention to surviving until tomorrow. I agree strongly with Aunt Natsuhi. You make that sound like it's an answer on a fucking political quiz. I agree strongly. We can figure out who the culprit is at our leisure tonight. For now, though, we're better off finding a place to barricade ourselves in. It has to be someone who's dead. As I said this, I pointed out the clock to everyone. It was already 8 at night. We had been receiving shocks over and over again since the early morning, and our bodies and minds were both completely tired out. There's still a long time until tomorrow. 4 hours, actually. We needed to find some place to barricade ourselves in so we could rest our bodies and get even the smallest amount of relief. I agree. Everyone is already pushing their mental and physical limits, myself included. I believe it would be wise to take that into account as we move forward. That's right. There's a high probability that the enemy's got the equivalent of a master key. Were Shannon, Cannon, and Goda holding master keys? Yes. They were supposed to have them on their person during work. We didn't want to disturb the scene, so we didn't investigate that closely. We can't eliminate the possibility that someone stole a key from them, or that it's one of the three, because I have a theory with Goda, and I have a really shitty theory with Shannon, but whatever. In the first place, we know the culprit may have visited the servant room at some point to unlock the garden shed shutter. It's conceivable that they obtained a master key from there earlier on. There were many servants serving the Ushiromiyas family. 5, actually. Because of that, there were several master keys, probably 3. Furthermore, every time one employee started or finished working, the keys were passed between servants. And we had to acknowledge that this had probably gotten a bit sloppy at times in the past. Even if they borrowed a bundle of keys from the pockets of one of the murdered servants, is there any safe place that those keys couldn't open? Because of the nature of our job, we have been entrusted with keys to all of the rooms. All of them in the mansion and in the guest house. So in other words, no matter where we hole up and lock ourselves in, it'd just be pointless. Fine, who cares about locking up? If you're gonna come, bring it on, damn it! I'll beat you at your own game! The enemy won't approach us from the front. I don't know about the first 6, but if we look at what happened to my parents and Cannon, and even grandfather, the enemy has only ever gone after isolated people. They don't have the power to assault all of us openly in a secure room. That's right. It's just like George says. And maybe Aunt Natsuhi's rifle can serve as a deterrent to stop them from attacking. I hope that is so, but... Maria, I know you want to say something, but keep it to yourself and stay quiet for a while. Maria probably wanted to say something about how witches weren't afraid of things like guns. But if she were to say it out loud, the atmosphere around here would start to get pretty edgy. Oh boy, they said the word edgy. I had noticed and decided to put a stop to it. If I may, I do know of just one place that cannot be entered, even with the servant key rings. Where is that? That would be the master's study. That makes sense. I'm against this. I don't even want to think about going in grandfather's creepy room. How many keys can gain access to that room? There are 2. I always have one on my person. The other was held by the master himself, but just now I found this on the corpse in the boiler room. Genji took a handkerchief out of his pocket and opened it, showing us the burnt and filthy study key, so we have both of them then. Then he showed it alongside his own key, which he had once lent to Natsuhi. Normally it would have been proper to leave the master's key for the police. But because of the master's orders to protect the safety of the study, I borrowed it for the time being. Oh, that was Genji. I see. Which means that Kinzo's study is the only place where we can be safe. It would appear that way. I don't even want to think about being shut up in that strange room all night. But it appears we must acknowledge that his room is safer than anywhere else right now. Even though grandfather locked himself up in that safe room, the culprit brought him out and killed him. We can't be certain that it's truly safe. According to your theory, grandfather cleverly found a way around that receipt trick and left his room of his own free will. If so, the room might be a good place to barricade ourselves in after all. You're too optimistic, George. However, at the same time, I thought he brought up a pretty interesting point. After all, this gives us a chance to question the enemy, the witch herself, about how the sealed door had been opened. If we assume the culprit used some technique to kidnap grandfather from his study, they'd have to show us the same trick again if they wanted to assault us in the study. And that they'd give us a chance to make the culprit prove how they did it right before our eyes. If she's really a witch, we'll be forcing her to use her little magic trick to open the door right in front of us. But that's probably impossible, If you spin the chessboard around, it's obvious the culprit is acting in a way that'll make us think they're a witch. If she really is a witch, all she's gotta do is appear in front of us and wow us with a colorful display of magic. Since she's avoided doing that, everything must be the work of a fake witch who wants us to think she's real. Therefore, a culprit who used a technique other than magic to defeat the closed room couldn't open the door before our eyes. Is grandfather's room big enough to stuff 8 people in? Yes. There's a bed, a sofa, and blankets. So while it is not luxurious, it'll be more than suitable for spending the night. There is also a sink, a bathroom, a refrigerator, and a liquor cabinet. Whoa, that's incredible. But isn't that weird? You're saying he built another house inside his house? It's pretty cramped for the last house of someone like our grandfather, who bought a whole island and realized all of his dreams.
That's right. After some point in time, Father probably couldn't feel at peace in any other place, even inside the mansion. We always sneered about how he shut himself up in there, and this time we're the ones who are gonna shut ourselves up. Ha! Jessica spat the words out. Jessica, it sounds like you'd rather go search for the culprit than stay shut up somewhere. Of course, I don't think we'll be able to find him if we just start searching on our own. In the end, we can't do anything but wait. Then it doesn't matter where we wait, does it? I'm not gonna run away or hide. Why don't we just take it easy in the parlor, watching TV or something while we wait for this Beatrice to appear? It's perfectly fine if she doesn't appear. There's no need for us to be the ones who expose the culprit. Well said. We shouldn't take needless risks before the police arrive. Thank you, Dr. Nanjo. I think we should move to Father's study. True, we have no proof that it's safe since Father was taken out of there. However, I cannot deny the possibility that, as Battler realized, Grandfather left the study of his own accord and was attacked outside.
A while back, I proposed that strange theory as a stopgap measure. But just as Aunt Eva said, even though that trick would be possible, I couldn't explain what motive could have made Grandfather sneak out of his own study in such a troublesome way. Plus, Grandfather couldn't even have used that trick unless he knew that the receipt was wedged in the door. Aunt Eva hadn't pointed out that last part, but it's clear how absurd the theory was. So does that mean the sealed door formed a closed room just as Aunt Eva claimed? Is it an undeniable fact that Aunt Natsuki was the culprit? If Aunt Eva were here now, she'd probably make that claim openly and blow my strange theory away. But anyway, I had to admit that a room with both a bed and a toilet, that all 8 people could be shut up in, and with only 2 keys, both of which were gathered here, had to be the safest place in the mansion right now. Ah, fuck, I hit my mic, sorry. At the very least, I figured this would be better than just staying shut up in the parlor and hoping nothing would go wrong. But wait, have we been safe only because we've been shut up in the parlor? What if leaving that room and moving to an unexplored location is actually more dangerous? Ah, it's useless. It's useless. It's all useless. My flimsy head is about to break out in a fever. If I keep spinning the chessboard around, right and wrong will keep switching places over and over and I won't be able to believe anything. When it seems like the culprit is one of the 18, I want to believe in Beatrice. And once I start believing in Beatrice, I start wanting to find the culprit amid the 18. If that keeps spinning around forever, in the end, my thoughts won't have taken one step from where they started. How far back in the past was it that Kyrie taught me about chessboard thinking? That concept of examining the situation by spinning it around and thinking from the enemy's side. I seem to remember being so interested by it back then. I used it to guide all my thinking. By the way, Kyrie was Dad's co-worker back then. I never dreamed that she'd someday be added to our family. Oh, so that's how they met? Didn't Kyrie tell me something once? Oh, is this the Danganronpa-esque music? I forgot what it sounds like. I get the feeling she once said that, while this chessboard thinking was one way to look at things, it certainly wasn't all-powerful. And it wouldn't be good to rely on it too much. Oh boy, I have to do her voice? How long has it been? Like, only 4 episodes? Chessboard thinking is my own interpretation of something called game theory, which I read about in a book long ago. But that's just a theory. A game theory. Thanks for watching. It's a very interesting subject, so you should tackle it yourself when you get into college, Battler. I really want to try it. If I could study and perfect my chessboard thinking, it'd be fun to be able to read into any opponent's moves, wouldn't it? But you can't believe in it blindly. Game theory is a very deep and complicated subject. Chessboard thinking is just my interpretation that skims the surface of game theory. Hello Internet, welcome to Game Theory. Today, we're going to be discussing how Kyrie is actually Sans Undertale. In order to thoroughly read your opponent's moves like you're imagining, you need to study your opponent. Additionally, while chessboard theory is convenient and practical, it isn't perfect. It has many weak points despite its convenience. Weak points? Yes. Chessboard thinking is founded upon game theory. When you thoroughly investigate game theory, it boils down to math. Do you know what the weak point of math is? It's noise. In math, when you write 1 plus 1 equals 2, that process will always result in 1 plus 1 equals 2, no matter how many billions of years pass. Nothing more, nothing less. That's because there's absolutely no noise mixed in. But for example, unlike math, the Japanese language has noise mixed in. Kanji are a good example. Old kanji and new kanji are slightly different, which represents an introduction of noise created by the changes between time periods. Isn't history the same? There are dozens of policies that seem foolish in the modern era, but were meaningful at some point in the past. Because the rules of chess are fixed, when a pair of experts are discussing one particular layout, it's possible they could reach the same conclusions whether they're from 100 years in the past or 100 years in the future. However, if the rules of chess had gone through massive changes over time, it's possible that a discussion about the same layout would have changed as well. That's right. Events in the world of humans are normally full of noise. Aren't human emotions that way? Even if the exact same thing occurs more than once, there's no guarantee that humans will always act in a predictable fashion. The moment we try to use a math-based theory to predict someone's actions, we must be aware that our theory has built-in weaknesses and limits. Simply put, chessboard thinking is extremely weak against noise and fickleness, as well as mistakes or incorrect knowledge. That's right. Kyrie definitely said that. I don't remember her saying that. Chess has always been a game where both sides play by the same rules and fight with the same conditions for victory. That's why it's possible for both sides to predict the other's moves. It's possible to read your opponent because you can always suppose they'll make the best moves they can find. But what if your opponent is fickle, or a bit tired? It makes a move that can hardly be called the best. Or what if this game actually has a special rule? Some unknown thing that only the enemy knows about and can use? In fact, what if the opponent actually has some goal other than victory? Think from your enemy's perspective. That's the basis of chessboard thinking. Which means if you misread your enemy, the answer you draw from this process will be complete rubbish. Useless. So far I've used chessboard theory to guess several vague bits of information about the culprit hiding behind this case. Or so I think. However, I don't know anything about the culprit. Am I just playing around in a labyrinth of thought? If Kyrie were here at a time like this, she'd probably be able to notice something with her much, much sharper thinking ability. I guess that makes sense. Until the very last moment, Jessica resisted moving into Grandfather's study. But in the end, Aunt Nazi persisted and we decided to move there. Everyone was completely wrapped in paranoia by now. Kumasawa had prepared dinner at one point, but during the time we were discovering the deaths of George's parents, both the kitchen and the parlor had been left empty. Someone suggested that the food might have been poisoned while we were gone. Because of that, we were unable to even touch the food that Kumasawa had taken the trouble to make for us. That's smart. The manner in which the first 6 were killed was still unknown, but it certainly could have been poison. Certainly that will allow even a single person to carry out the murder of 6 large adults. Furthermore, this idea made it easy to imagine there being only a single culprit. One who'd be afraid of Aunt Nazi's rifle. And this was very good for our emotional stability. But the fatigue and hunger were even harsher than we'd imagined. Then Kumasawa made a proposal and we all went together to the kitchen. There we gathered some canned food and other things that'd be hard to poison to take in with us. Oh, okay. All of Kumasawa's efforts to reward us with just a little dinner on this savage day regrettably came to nothing. The food piled up on the serving cart looked just a little sad. We all started climbing the stairs. Aunt Nazi, who was in the lead, warily stared into the darkness with both eyes and the barrel of the gun. Once we dragged ourselves up to the 3rd floor, just as Aunt Nazi had warned us of beforehand, there was a mixture of a chemical smell and a sickly sweet aroma, a stench hanging in the air that felt like it was eating into our heads. I see, this kind of stench probably would give you a headache if you were shut in with it for a whole night. I know it's a little late, but I'm with Jessica. I vote against going into Grandfather's study. It felt like the stench was floating out from this magnificent door. It was the door to the forbidden study, which should defend against any who would enter. While Genji unlocked the door, Maria stared at the door and the doorknob with great interest.
Ew, I'm gonna kill the doorknob! Incredible door!
It looks old and strict and like it'd stop any jokes cold. A perfect door for grandfather's study.
The power to ward off spiritual menaces is strong here. Beatrice probably couldn't open this door.
Oh? What does that mean? Maria pointed at the doorknob. A scorpion crest. Oh, okay. Kinzo, you're a smart man. Why'd you leave your room? Does that alone confirms that if he was taken from the room, though, then that it wouldn't be a witch. A scorpion crest. No, a design with like a magic circle arranged around a scorpion was inscribed there. That design. That's right. Isn't it just like those keychain charms Maria gave Jessica and me yesterday?
The fifth magic circle of Mars is a strong ward against magic. Additionally, this magic circle is very diligently constructed and is full of power. Such a magic circle can be quite troublesome to beings of magic like Beatrice.
Isn't that comforting? Are you saying we can escape even Beatrice's clutches in this room? Our little witch here sure is reliable. Then how did Beatrice get grandfather out?
This is about her reason. Beatrice can't go inside. However, she has both magic and familiars. Using them, she might have been able to get grandfather to leave the study of his own accord.
Ah, I've read about that in manga. I've seen a bunch of scenes where vampires were frightened of crosses, so they couldn't get close. But their familiars were just fine, so they made their familiars attack.
Those scorpion keychain charms I gave you yesterday also had the fifth magic circle of Mars on them. The power dwelling within them was weak, but they should be enough to protect you until we leave the island. Although it sounds like you've lost yours, right?
Scorpion keychain charms?
Yeah, the charm I gave you yesterday was something I got from Maria. I heard it would repel magic if you put it on your doorknob, and at the time I thought maybe it'd be better if you had it.
Is that so? I thought it was an odd thing for you to be carrying around. Is this, probably Maria.
Aunt Natsuhi put that on her doorknob?
Yes. Last night after hearing about it from Jessica, I hung it from the doorknob on the inside of my door.
Then Aunt Natsuhi, you're really fortunate. If you did that, Jessica probably... if you did that, Beatrice probably couldn't even lay a finger on you yesterday. I think Beatrice must have been really annoyed.
Beatrice? Annoyed? Couldn't lay one finger? Natsuhi thought back on the eerie scribble she'd seen that morning, as though someone who had been tearing at the outside of her door with blood-soaked hands, and gasped in surprise. Could it be that this witch who called herself Beatrice tried to enter through the door to Natsuhi's own room, but the magic-repelling charm had been hanging from the inside, so she couldn't break through the door, so she was annoyed, so she scratched at it? Interesting.
Quit it, don't talk about that! Witches don't exist, the culprit does, and they're human just like us. If you need proof, why don't we dice her up and see if her blood's red? Damn it! How could you do that to Canon?
Click! Genji unlocked the door. 8 people entered Kinzo's study. And in there was dead body. Somehow. Grandfather's study. I'd heard rumors about it beforehand, so I wasn't that shocked. He had done nothing more than fortify it thoroughly with his occult hobbies. If Grandfather's hobby had been chasing after pop idols, these walls might be buried beneath idol posters. Even if I didn't understand it, I did realize that this room was a bundle of all his pastimes. Even so, I couldn't help but remain dumbfounded by the smell of his creepy medicine and the sweet stench that seemed to melt my head. That's probably as good a time to end this episode as anything. Went for quite a while. 2 more people died. Poor Kinzo and poor Canon. We only have 8 people left, and if my theory is right, which I don't remember how many people actually died this chapter, I only know 1 more person who actually legitimately dies, and I'm not gonna say who in case you don't know. So yeah. Either way, that's gonna be it for this episode, and if you liked it, be sure to press the like button, and if you didn't like it, fuck you too. Remember to subscribe, follow me on Twitter, and hit that notification bell to stay up to date on all my videos and stuff. And as always, my name is Godzi, and I will see you all next time. Goodbye!